Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 8 of season 7 of the Stool podcast. We didn't have Joey last week, some of you may have noticed,
I'm
and
back.
Joey's back. He hasn't left. That was a show. It's a pity that you weren't on it. That was a show that was pretty interesting. We got stuck into the design aspect of things.
Awesome.
I had a number of very cool comments come back after the show, just talking about. I wish there was Stuart White sent me a message and gave me a few book suggestions on what to read to sort of work on that like creative side of your brain, which was really interesting.
Cool.
But I thought, let's find out where you were while the show was on.
Yeah, sure.
Hang on, before we move on, maybe stick the book recommendations in the Instagram feed. Like I always say, we get tons of DMs, and there's so much useful information that's ending up in our DMs, and we don't necessarily have the time to share every single thing in a public forum. So if people do have recommendations or show notes or something like that that they want to add, stick it in the Instagram post or on Spotify or something like that where other people can see it, because it is really useful. I was the same, Robin. I got so many messages this week about last week's show and how useful it was. So yeah, if people can just put them in the Instagram comments, that would be awesome.
Yeah, cool. I'll chuck these ones on the shows for last week's show.
Brilliant.
Well. Yeah.
So I was on site that particular day. I couldn't make it to the podcast, but in the meantime, I've had a whole big truckload of Western Red cedar dropped off and have been milling my way through thousands of meters of cedar louvers for 30 doors to be made. I've been keeping people abreast a little bit on my Instagram with how I've been dealing with the ridiculous numbers of things.
Jigs and jigs,
and I've, as foolproof as you think you can make a jig. It's interesting how easily a little bit of human error and kind of mind wandering can suddenly shift something, and you're just like, how did that happen? There's a jig. This machine can't be in any other position, but somehow I managed to plow a hole in the wrong place. So
When you use jigs or in a job like this where you've got your end product and you've got to get to that point, however 30 odd times, do you work one door to the end point and then right now I've got the process, that's what I do for the rest? Or are you confident enough to work all the doors to a 50% mark, for example, and then move on to the next step?
I think you're confusing confident with foolish. No, the problem with it would be great to be able to take a door all the way through the process. And I think if I was ever making a long-term product that I say might offer this louver door, I would have done that and created standalone repeatable jigs that for each of those processes. And I know I could just kind of mount the jig on the table and do the work. In this case, I'm only going to be making these 30 doors once. So I guess am confident / foolish enough that I know I have to cut all the mortises for the main joinery. I set up a jig that lets me do that on all the stiles. And then that jig is dismantled and never to be made again. And then I have to set up another jig for all the roundovers on the inside edge of the stiles. And then that jig is kind of rehashed into the next jig that has to be made. And so at this point, I have not got a door together. I might get the first one together today.
But are you building in, I guess, some extra tolerances, some plan B, like, or
There's no plan B.
I just mean from the perspective of you've made your jig, you've cut all your parts, and now you go, oh shit, there's 5 mil off on all of the parts.
Yeah. Well, if that was the case, you have to come up with a solution for that. I double and triple check. Like we just finished sanding all the louver slats, and double and triple check that the first slat comes out at exactly like 9.9 millimeters because it's going into a 10 mil hole. And once I knew that the sander's set up, and then my wife's been just putting all this stuff through the sander for the last week, and so that
You've got a drum sander, don't you, Joe? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually bought a spiral head thicknesser for this job, thinking
Oh, you bought one.
that, well, it certainly made life better. Just having a new thicknesser that just does what it should, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But probably 50% of the cedar has got really gnarly grain in it, and even the spiral head was just not giving me
Still tearing out.
as good a finish as I wanted. So for all the louvers, I planed it down to 11 mil and then finished the last mil on the sander, which actually took 3 passes.
I preach this to everyone because it seems like very few people, that I've spoken to, consider the drum sander from that perspective. But when you're working with our eucalypts, it doesn't matter how sharp or how perfect your spiral head cutter is. There's always a bit of a gamble on it. And and then people say, oh, that's interesting. My timber comes out finish ready out of my thicknesser. And I just think I cannot believe that because the timber that I put through, it's 50-50 whether it's going to get, and I have a spiral head as well.
Most of the larger stock, the rails and styles, came out like 90% good, which doesn't matter actually so much because once it's glued up, and then I have to sand the whole thing anyway. So it's all going to be hit with a sander. But yeah, the slats, I was hoping to avoid kind of triple and quadruple handling them, but I had to do that. It's a bloody process. It's interesting to watch this giant stack of like 150 by 50 boards, and it's now down to like just this kind of bundle, which is not very big, and it's just 80% sawdust. That's crazy.
Are you okay with working with cedar?
I'm fine.
I've worked out just randomly on a project last year that I don't know if I'm allergic to it, but my skin hates it. It goes up my nose and I can hardly breathe. It's awful stuff. It's terrible for me.
Yeah, I've heard a lot. I'd say probably 50% of people typically have some reaction to the smell of it. But I'm, I guess, lucky. I've never reacted to any sawdust.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hopefully going to be getting the first door glued up this afternoon. But there's still a whole lot of mortises to cut yet for the louvers.
And by the sounds of things, with your wife in there, you don't have a shop hand at the moment.
I do actually.
Right.
Shop hand is currently painting and sanding in the other room. I've got another project on that needs. I'm doing a kitchen refresh kind of thing. So at the moment, I'm working on a bunch of jobs, which a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, I was no work and sweeping the floor. And so I'm just quoting on everything that came across that I could find. And a bunch of that's come to fruition. And so a bunch of it is work I would never have taken on typically, just because it's just not really my cup of tea. The one that's happening right now is like a kitchen refresh where it's just a shitty old flat pack kitchen. And all the panels are shite, and we're just replacing all the main face panels and drawer boxes with new stuff, and everything else in the kitchen is staying as is. So it's just a bunch of shaker panels and paint and some drawer runners. So it's not something I would really like to do, but it's going to pay me something at some point.
When you say drawer runners, so the actual runners themselves, are you replacing like for like or going to something better?
No, yeah, they've got some weird old Hafele type runner with a top rail, and they're all wobbly and just a bit bunk. So I'm putting a lower end modern, like a high sided steel drawer box in, something like a Blum, but it's a lower end version.
My kitchen drawer runners are starting to go, and it was a caboodle kitchen, so it's not great, not the worst, but it's not great, and it had some of those. The normal straight runners with the ball bearings. And it's taken, 6 years, and they've started failing. And it's kind of, it's the lived experience that I have where now I'll start recommending to people, don't go with those draw runners. They may seem fine at the beginning, but try upgrade to something better.
Yes. Yep. It's always the way. You get for what you pay for, and unfortunately, you don't really appreciate it until you're like, oh, it's only been a couple of years, like, and this stuff's failed. But
Yeah.
sometimes the budget dictates as well.
What have you been working on, Brian?
I have had a busy week. Something I've been talking to you guys about behind the scenes for a long time. But yeah, I've had a pretty major lifestyle shift in the past few months. So I've actually gone back to university.
What?
Yep, it's done. So I am studying my Masters of Teaching.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Very cool.
So, yeah, like I said, I had some pretty big life changes sort of leading on from all the health stuff last year. And I was just ready for a little bit more stability in my life. So, yeah, I've got an 18-month master's degree in teaching with a placement next year with the view to being design, technology, product design, woodwork, sort of try to find a role that straddles all those disciplines. And hopefully, due to the teacher shortages that are all across Australia and probably all around the world, that I'm in a pretty good negotiating spot to say I want a 3-day contract or I want a 4-day contract, and then keeping Sawdust Bureau going on top of that, and not having to, like you're saying, Joey, chasing the jobs that you didn't want.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a bit over that now. I just want to work on pieces that I feel creatively motivated by, and if teaching enables me to do that, then that's the plan for the future.
It was funny listening to Isabel talk about that. We've had Nick Padula on the show who's talked about that. All these guys who, presumably at some point in your career, you get to a stage where you go, no, I want to work for the stuff I want to do the work that I want to do and work for me. But then at the same time, Joey, you are very much, I feel like you're a cabinet or a kitchen developer. Do you think you'll ever get to that point where you...
It would be great. I mean, I should have done it years ago. But I'm the only person making money for my family, and I don't feel that I can, at this stage with the young kids, kind of, I guess, jeopardize what their lifestyle is right now. For my sake, I suppose I'm willing to just plow through. And for the most part, I still enjoy what I'm doing. Like I say, I've got a job on right now, which I wouldn't normally take on. But generally, I think I still enjoy what I'm doing, and I still get the chance to make interesting pieces, even if I kind of live vicariously through someone else's idea and money. I still get to be a part of the process, which I like. So I say big up to you, Brian. I mean, I think it's a great... and presumably, I mean, I didn't even say, but what are you thinking you'd teach? Or would you be like a reliever, or did you want to do...
Oh,
like
maybe my internet might have broken up just there. So it's going to be teaching secondary design, technology, woodworking, product design, visual arts. You pick 2 disciplines that you can teach in, and from those 2 disciplines, it opens up about 4 or 5 different subjects for me. Yeah, it's going to be 6 months of study, and then they'll have me in a school from January, which is mildly terrifying. I haven't had much. I've obviously taught adults, in different, like I tutored architecture at design studios in Melbourne Uni. I've done a bit of teaching at the VWA. So I feel confident with that. With teaching kids, it's really fascinating, actually. So I'm only 2 weeks into the study, but there's so much child psychology that's actually taught as part of it. It's not just teaching methods. It goes a bit deeper than that. So it's going to be really interesting. Design and technology, to me, it was the subject I loved at school. It's what sort of my whole week at school would revolve around it. I'd be waiting for it to come up in the timetable. And I just kind of hope that it's not a subject that dies out. not saying that I want to teach the next generation of furniture makers, but if I can teach, I don't know, kids to have the confidence that, you know, when they move out of home and they move into a house and a door handle breaks, that they know how to replace a door handle. Just the simplest thing like that. Just and also getting kids out of a screen and into a practical subject where they have to actually think and problem solve and, you know, all those great human skills that have the potential to be lost in the kind of AI generation.
I mean, that's such a good point, because, I mean, to not be a doomsayer, but the stuff that kids are learning typically is all capable of being done by AI right now. Like almost all jobs that are not practical, and so to have kids coming out of a high school or any learning institute with practical skills and more than anything, an ability to think critically about a problem and work a way to fix it, whether it's the right or wrong way to do it. If you can work out a way that works, then that's great. That's what we need, right?
Yeah. And I just feel very motivated by the idea of, like, design technology is obviously a very practical subject that not everybody will engage with. Like, there's highly academic students who'll go, I don't really want to do woodworking. But then there's the kids that have slipped through the cracks of academia and don't feel as though their skill sets are you know, being met.
Yeah.
And then you have a subject like woodworking that could open up a career as a carpenter or anything like that. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's a lot of work. So it's about 35 hours a week on top of work and parenting.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, compressor. Sorry. I'll be back.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I think a lot of them would echo this point about the AI revolution and how all of the original thought leaders are all saying, if you want to survive the next 10 to 15 years, be a plumber, be a carpenter, because all of the jobs that we want now, you know, and we have wanted for the last 15 years, are the ones that are getting automated out of existence.
Yeah. It's just, I suppose it's the way the lazy human brain works, right?
Yeah. What's scary is that I've started seeing the first glimpses of robots doing practical on-site work.
And it'll get there eventually, but the safer option for now is practical.
Like I saw a robot laying flooring, like kind of click-clack overlay flooring, and this robot's just chugging along, laying brick by brick. And you could imagine that'd be great for a giant hotel lobby or some giant thing where it's just a big open space. And I saw that and I thought, wow, that's coming along fast. But it's still not there. But wow, you know, things are happening in that robot world.
Yeah, you look just up the road from here and Jem's teaching robots how to sand.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh my goodness! Have you not seen the video of it?
Is that what the arms are for? He got those arms for standing.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously trying to teach it. We should get him back on again to talk about robots and stuff. But yeah, he has these 3D printed heads for it, and he was trying to sand a bevel on the shelves. It's wild.
I would love to get his take on robotics and AI in the industry as well. That'd be awesome.
All right, let's hit him up.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you started, was it last week?
2 weeks ago, yeah. It had there was the other thing that I've been busy with. It had a 2-day in-person intensive classes. So actually it's at Deakin University, which is in Geelong, so about an hour away from me. And I was all excited for these in-person days. And then I got my first dose of COVID.
Oh, wow. Welcome to the club.
In 5 years. And it was doubled up with a dose of flu as well. So
did you not get COVID when I was giving it to everybody at Sawdust?
No.
Wood Dust.
Yeah. Apologies to anybody that attended Wood Dust who got COVID. That was Joey.
Yeah.
No, I haven't had it at all.
Wow.
I had flu about 10 years ago or 12 years ago or something, but no COVID, no nothing. And then, yeah, both at the same time. So that just wiped me and the kids out.
Yeah.
That must have been awful.
With a nice little overlap into school holidays as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's been a pretty hectic. So not much work has happened. I'm still staring at that. Well, not staring. I'm finally started to work on that broken Blackbird.
Yes.
And starting on a memory box for a repeat client, which is always a nice one to have. But
cool.
Small scale work.
Yeah. And the workload for the course, so you've obviously now got a better idea of it. Is it quite intensive? I mean, is it going to take up the time?
It's definitely going to take 30 hours a week. Like that's what they said at the start. And I'm like, oh, is it really? You know, I know, I feel like I'm a mature student. I've been to uni before. This is going to, I can wing bits. And you're like, oh no, there is a lot of reading and a lot of assessments. But at the minute I feel motivated by it. And, you know, you obviously hear horror stories from teachers about burnout and kids just being absolute shitbags and all that kind of stuff. But
imagine us, remember what we did at school, and then you've got to like face yourself. You're like, oh. No.
It's actually mad thinking back to like a lot of the first week of teaching is reflecting on, the master's teaching is reflecting on your own experiences at school. So I like unlocked all these memories of my design and technology classes and the things that we were allowed to do in the 90s. Like angle grinders, welding, we're using every bit of machinery in the workshop. I'm like, oh yeah, I was 15, but that seems like a fine thing to do. And the thing is, everybody was really safe. Like everybody was instructed really well, and nobody acted like a dickhead around it. Like everybody sort of realized the dangers, and it's just, that's obviously going to be a massive change now with
health and safety,
OH&S and stuff.
You just brought back this memory. In my metalwork class, my mates were talking about lowering their cars and cutting the springs. They wanted to cut the back springs, and the metalwork teacher's like, you can't cut the springs. For God's sake, bring the car around and we'll lower it properly. And he showed them how to heat up the coils until they started sinking and stuff. And so we lowered everyone's car in the metalwork. That's crazy. That's awesome. Completely illegally.
Yeah. Don't know whether I'd be lowering cars, but So that's where my life is at now. So I'm still very motivated to keep the business going. So this is hopefully going to allow me to do that into the future. Awesome. And also do the in-house teaching here for teaching those little creative sessions with primarily adults as well. So I figure that if I learn how to teach kids, and I'm already got a bit of experience with teaching adults, then hopefully the two pair up and make me a better teacher.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's surely it's going to help you in both worlds.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Robin, what's up?
Well, yeah. So I mentioned to you guys earlier, I wanted to get some advice on some stuff that I'm working on. And seeing as we were talking about doors earlier, let's start there. I have my first quote for a door, which I'm really excited about because it feels like that's one of those projects that every furniture maker at some point needs to make a door.
This is a front door of ours?
So this is an internal door for a hallway, and they want 2 doors. So obviously they're going to be quite narrow. So it's
like a door at each end or
on either side of the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, French doors is what she's after.
Yeah.
Solid timber, not painted, and quite an ornate design. So I've obviously gone online and started researching how to make doors, and it seems like there's probably many directions you can go, but the 2 that I'm seeing is some people are making their doors out of solid timber. So it's a solid piece of timber through and through. That's the style.
Yeah.
Other people do that method where you take you take sort of cut thin strips, bit it together, you put on a front face and a back face. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion. I'm going to be using Vic Ash, which is a structural timber. When you buy it rift sawn. So it's pretty stable.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's right off the rack. And, as I say, it's being structural. It's been dried to a particular moisture level. Do you think it's worth going that far into it, or just use solid timber?
I think the idea with staving the door styles and rails is mostly to do with exterior doors, where you have to deal with a whole different amount of moisture on each side of the door. You can do them, obviously, wherever you like. But for the last 1,000 years, solid wood doors have been perfectly fine inside a building. And especially with quarter sawn or rift sawn timber stock, I would be going solid timber any day of the week for the internal doors.
One of my concerns is we're in North Queensland here. We are in a very dry part of the year. It's the middle of winter. It's super dry. And then we go into summer, which is just the complete opposite. That seems like a recipe for disaster. If we were sort of on the transition, I'd be a little bit happier. It seems like what happens if those doors move? My client comes to me and says, right, the doors have moved. Do I then have to fix it, or do I just say, oh, well, sorry, that's just what the weather did?
Well, you need to give them a heads up that timber is a natural product and it's going to move. It's not if, but it will. I would kind of err on the 1,000 years of people's experience that say the quarter sawn, rift sawn timber is not going to expand in its width very much at all. It's going to expand in its thickness. You may get, with really a super influx of humidity, you might get a situation where the rails, let's say the bottom rail, might expand lower than the length of the rail at the bottom. That can happen, especially in external doors, because it's mortise and tenon in. It needs to expand somewhere, and usually what happens is the rail will expand down to the gap towards the floor. But it's, again, 1 or 2 mil. That's where I would expect to see movement if you really have a huge influx of moisture. But presumably, when you say unpainted, you're also going to seal it somehow.
Oh yeah. So I just mean it's not a UV protected cover.
Yeah,
not that it matters.
So even
really,
if you use Osmo oil or just something like that, a Danish oil is going to protect it somewhat from the effects of high humidity. You also need to consider. Sorry, go, Brian.
I was just going to say the humidity is obviously a massive aspect where you are, Robin, but inside, right, you're running air kiln units.
True. Yeah, that's true.
365, right? All the time. So that's actually quite a stable environment for timber because it's the moisture change that's the problem, not just that there's moisture in the air. So I don't know, unless it's by a window or in direct sunlight or directly under an aircon unit or something like that. I don't know. I think stability wise it might be okay. The only thing I would say is if you're looking at the difference of doing like that kind of torsion box hollow core door, it would require you to be set up in the shop to do it. So the advantages of that form of construction is obviously stability, one, and secondly, way less materials. So if you imagine you're sort of ripping the timber down into veneers and pressing it, so that's fine for like a commercial setup. If you've got a big massive table dedicated to a vacuum bag and all that kind of stuff, but you don't have that. So the amount of labor that you would have to achieve with all the clamping and all that kind of stuff will kind of negate any material cost savings. Yep. So I would say it's a lot of work patterns and what your shop is set up to do actually dictates the way that you'll be making the door, as opposed to thinking there's a correct way to do it. There's lots of ways to do it. So I would say if you feel more comfortable with solid, go solid, and it's just the extra cost is what it is. And
comes
plus, if you're
pricing,
saying that there's like ornate carving into it as well. Like, it's like a relief
panels.
carve. So
it'll be a float. It'll be, I don't know how many panels, but let's say 4 panels, like French door with the trim around
with the molding
around that molding.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to think as well, if you're doing that torsion box thing, if there is relief carving or anything into it, then you've obviously only got the thickness of the veneer to work with, whereas solid, go for your life.
Yeah, in my experience with any solid timber, mostly tables, in our environment here, similar in Auckland, where people are often running air conditioning units, tables always shrink. They've never expanded. In my career, I've never seen one of my pieces get bigger. They've only ever shrunk. Because the timber typically is still, even KD timber sitting in a warehouse somewhere, comes to my workshop, which is relatively open, and then it goes into an environment where it's controlled into someone's house, and suddenly that's when it finishes drying out properly. The last 5% is going to shrink, and so I think you'll find it getting bigger is not going to be the problem. Is that everything will slightly decrease by a mil or two. That's what I would expect to happen.
Which won't be an issue in this case. Yeah. Okay. And just to clarify on what you were saying, Brian, with the torsion box, my idea with the, what did you call it, Joey? With the strips of timber?
It's a staved rails. So
so you would just make the rails in stiles up out of those staves, so it wouldn't be a full door that would need to be flat. It's not a flat panel.
It's a lot of work. It's a massive amount of work, and I've priced it in both ways because to try and let's save some material cost, but the labor to do all that is a bit more than the solid version anyway. So it's more.
And I would be making the staves out of the same timber as the veneer anyway, because it's a very low cost material.
Yeah, you could
Tasmanian,
do that.
Vic Ash.
You could also decide to do the core of the staves out of plywood or something, and then you veneer on those, like, say 2 or 3 mil veneers around it. It's a shitload of work to make 2 doors.
Make sure you're pricing it appropriately, Robin. Like, if you think of it, each door, just use the mental picture of, if I was trying to make a table that was that size, how much more work there is involved in the technicalities of making a door.
Yeah.
Each one of these should be a factor of 2 or 3 or 4 compared to a little table of the same size.
Last year, I made that silky oak table that was just made up of thin strips. And I spent countless hours, more hours than I'd like to admit, putting that together, which is a similar thing to what we're talking about. Yeah, I think I'm going to go solid then, especially also because because they're 2 doors, they're going to be quite narrow. So you're not going to get this big panel, which is going to be moving. Hopefully, because they're thinner, again, that will be less movement, if there was going to be any anyway.
Yep.
Cool. Maybe we should just end the episode there and
do a bit more design next time.
Do a bit more design next time. Yeah. Hey, we're at what are we? 36 minutes. So yeah, it'll be a short episode this week, guys. And let's pick up on the design next time.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds
all right.
good.
See you, everyone.
All right. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.